This afternoon, Republicans, so divided, so dysfunctional, so disorganized, are fleeing Washington. Republicans are in complete disarray. They're at each other's throats, and the American people are suffering for it.
That Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer after Senate Republicans took off a day earlier than originally planned for Memorial Day weekend after failing to vote on funding for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol protection via budget reconciliation. This will guarantee the Senate will miss President Trump's June 1st deadline to fully fund the vital agencies. Since the Senate is out on break until June 1st, there is frustration. It's boiling over among many Senate Republicans. On Thursday, this happened after the Justice Department agreed to a $1.7 billion fund for victims of government weaponization earlier in the week, in which money from a permanent appropriation fund to settle cases against the government would be used. The fund was signed off after the president agreed to drop his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS and Treasury Department over the leak of his tax returns during the Biden administration. The decision by Senate Republican leadership to hold off on voting for budget reconciliation is driven by the concern that Democrats would be able to use the process to force a vote on dictating the terms of who would be eligible to receive the funds, with the possibility of several Republicans crossing the aisle and siding with Democrats. Some Senate Republicans were also wary of signing off on allocating $1 billion towards security for the new ballroom being constructed at the White House, forcing leadership to table the issue from reconciliation. This is all coming as sitting Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy lost his bid for re-election in the GOP primary last week after President Trump endorsed his opponents. And the president backing Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton in his bid to unseat current Texas Senator John Cornyn in the Republican primary runoff on Tuesday. Meanwhile, President Trump continues to push for the Republican-led Senate to eliminate the filibuster and pass the Save America Act before this November's midterms. But Senate Majority Leader John Thune has shown little enthusiasm on forcing the issue on mandatory voting ID. Joining me now with more on all this is Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who sits on the Senate Homeland, Budget and Finance Committee. Senator, it is great to have you. Senator Schumer might be taking it a little bit too far, but it is fair to say right now it feels like the party is a little fractured. How do you get unity back intact?
Good morning, Jackie. Well, it is beyond galling to listen to Senator Schumer, who shut down the government for 42 days, who led his conference to defund ICE and CBP after they opened the borders, created this enormous mess. They're sabotaging all Republican efforts to try and clean up that mess. And so they're the reason that we even have to do this through reconciliation. Now, I was always for a completely focused bill that only funded ICE, only funded CBP, and leave all the other things that I'd like to do off of that. Let's get that done. You know, the timing of the weaponization fund was unfortunate, but I completely support it. Under the Biden administration, there was a massive amount of weaponization of government against ordinary citizens. For example, in Wisconsin, Judge Trupus, the man who represented President Trump in doing exactly what John F. Kennedy did when the electors were at question in Hawaii back in 1960. He is now up on felony forgery charges because of that weaponization. They're destroying him. Probably about $2 million worth of legal funds. That's exactly what these funds have been used for in the past. Obama used them. Other presidents have done it. It was just a timing issue. But of course, Democrats will always take the political advantage here. And that's the only reason that I think we said, okay, let's calm the situation down. Let's come on back. Let's regroup, and let's figure out a way of handling this, because I think this fund is needed. I think it's only in fairness when you have such massive weaponization against ordinary citizens. Something should be there. We'll probably have to come up with some kind of guardrails.
Is it guardrails, or is it more conversations with your colleagues that you're afraid might side with the Democrats on the weaponization fund issue and therefore block the reconciliation going forward?
Well, again, this is not part of reconciliation.
No, I understand that, but they're using it as an issue.
I understand. So what I recommend is let's come up with an overall amendment that takes care of this, that satisfies everybody, that no, you're not going to get people who, were committed acts of violence and that type of, those are not the kind of people who are going to access this fund. We're talking about innocent citizens like Judge Trupus, who have had their lives destroyed. They're being bankrupted by the Biden administration's weaponization of government. Those are the types of people I think we can put guardrails around this to satisfy my colleagues. Hopefully we can.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the ballroom because there is an issue about funding for security purposes. After what we saw happen at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you know, the president definitely talked about the ballroom being necessary for many reasons, but that it also is a national security issue. That is a sticking point as well right now. Your thoughts?
Well, I also support funding for that national security component of that. What's going to be underneath that ballroom. I don't want to talk further about it than that, but I mean, there's certainly a national security component. And listen, I'm a big fiscal hawk. When government's going to spend money, I don't mind them spending it on infrastructure that's going to be around for decades, that also is involved in national security. And just the ballroom itself now, based on the Correspondents' Dinner, it would be nice to have a larger ballroom that can accommodate those types of events where the president, his cabinet members are attending, and they can do it in far greater security. So again,
Absolutely.
I support both of these things. It shouldn't be blowing up this deal, but let's keep this reconciliation focused. Let's fund ICE. Let's fund CBP. It's Democrats that are preventing that from happening. They're the ones that want to defund law enforcement just in general.
Senator Johnson, I want to ask you about the report that you released. You were going to hold a hearing on Biden health officials' failure to detect COVID-19 vaccine safety signals. This is an issue that we certainly are past, but many people are passionate about as we look to see what exactly went on during that time period.
Jackie, this is the most egregious government scandal in my lifetime. On March 1st, Peter Marks, the head of the division within FDA that approves vaccines and then surveils the safety, was briefed that the algorithm they're using to analyze VAERS was going to completely mask and hide safety signals. 26 days later, he was shown 25 adverse events where there were, safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, different types of strokes, and he hid it. They are lying about it to this day. They continued to use the old algorithm. They knew it would hide it, and then they went and lied to the American public. So, again, the hundreds of thousands of people that experienced adverse events, the tens of thousands that died on VAERS, reported on VAERS, associated with that vaccine, these people ought to have a cause of action against those government officials that hid what the American people had a right to know, but they lied bald-faced to the American public. And unfortunately, I appreciate Fox covering this. Not one major network has picked up the story. This has been 3 weeks now. Like I said, the biggest government scandal in my lifetime. And mum's the word because everybody was complicit in it.
We take it very seriously, and many Americans, as you said, looking for accountability on this issue. Senator Johnson, thank you. Great to have you this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.